Breathe deep and fly high, my fellow cadets. Breathe deep and fly high. How are you all doing today, or tonight, whenever you are watching this video, today we are going to be introducing our first three books. I've picked these books because I know and love them very, very much. Well, I know two of them very much. The first two books that I will show you are the first books from my favorite series of all time, my two favorite series of all time, series plural. And the third book is a book that I've been wanting to read on my own time recently. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the first book that we have on our roster today. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I don't remember how old I was when I read this, but this is the book and the author that got me into reading. One of the books and one of the authors that got into reading, I attribute it to two different books, two different series, and two different authors for getting me into reading. But this is The Lightning Thief, Book 1 in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, written by Rick Riordan. So, this book was released back in a time when reviews were put on the front page of the book. So I'll go ahead and read this review for you. It has a little star next to it, a little star next to it, a little star next to it. It says, a riotously paced quest tale of heroism. By Kirkus Reviews. On the cover here we have a relatively like cardboard-esque, like plastic paper, not plastic, but like plastic paper, if you know what I'm talking about, cover with no additional textures apart from a slightly risen title. We have on the cover here Percy Jackson in his orange Can't Have Blood shirt. If you've seen the show, you know what that is, or if you know relatively anything about the series, aside from the fact that he's a demigod, you know what that is. In his right hand, he carries Riptide, the blade Riptide, and in his left hand he carries, well, I suppose we'll have to read to find out what he carries in his left hand, if you don't already know. So, we have Percy here with this dark black hair, looking at you, Disney, with this dark black hair. His walker is perfect for the Percy Jackson role. Just wish he had black hair. That is all. But he still looks cute with the blonde, an adorable little, I don't know, 11 or 12-year-old facing the horrors of the world. Blonde hair is perfectly fine. So then we have Percy standing in the ocean, which is churning with the water, with the seawater. High waves white capping in the face of a raging storm over the skyline of New York City. And towering over even New York itself is the Empire State Building. on his throne in Olympus. Why is that? Again, I guess we'll have to read to find out. So this is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. Most of us who know the series just call it Percy Jackson. Have you read Percy Jackson? Have you read the first book? It's called The Lightning Thief. The title of the book is the very last thing out of our mouths when we're referring to the books. So here you have the title of the series, Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Riordan. The Lightning Thief, Literature Circle Edition. And you can't really see that, there we go. Literature Circle Edition by Scholastic Books. So we have a description of the book here on the back. It says, Percy Jackson is about to be kicked out of boarding school again, and that's the last of his troubles. Lately, mythological creatures and the gods of Mount Olympus seem to be walking straight out of the pages of Percy's Greek mythology textbook and into his life. And worse, he's angered a few of them. Zeus's master lightning bolt has been stolen, and Percy is the prime suspect. Now Percy and his friends have just 10 days to find and return Zeus's stolen property and bring peace to a warring Mount Olympus. But to succeed on his quest, Percy will have to do more than catch the true thief. He must come to terms with the father who abandoned him, solve the riddle of the oracle, which warns him of a betrayal by a friend, and unravel a treachery more powerful than the gods themselves. A cool little divider here. Another review with the star heading it. It says, An Adventure Quest with the Hip Edge by the School Library Journal. A starred review. Also, apologies if you can hear my computer whirring. I'm uploading a video file, and I can't close it, otherwise it won't upload. So, this says, packed with humorous allusions to Greek mythology, along with the rib-snorting action sequences, this book really shines. By the Horn Book, a review by the Horn Book. This is the New York Times Notable Book of 2005, a Child Magazine Best Book of the Year, and a School Library Journal Best Book of the Year, with the Literature Circle Edition stamp here, and the Scholastic stamp below that. I don't know how expensive these books are these days, but this book only cost $8 US. Oh, it says this edition is available for distribution only through the school market. You know, that could be why I had such a hard time finding the original copies of these books. So, and then the second series is called Heroes of Olympus. So this one's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and the next series, the follow-up series, same characters for the most part, is called Heroes of Olympus. I own copies of that series. So I am a pretty big Percy Jackson fan. I just recently bought a sweatshirt because I never had the idea to buy fan articles of clothing before this year, or last year I guess. But I now own a sweatshirt of the Camp Half-Blood Deal. And I think that's all I have that's actually Percy Jackson related, which is a little bit sad, but you know, owning 3 copies of the first series and 2 copies of the second series should say enough, I would hope. This book is the reason that I put the shell on the set today, so there's that. I have a lot of shells. So this is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. This is one of the first 3 books we'll be reading on this channel. Within the front page we have 2 things, one of which I find very interesting to me here. But it tells you a lot about kind of old style books. chapter titles, and I love them. I love them all very much. So, contents with a little lightning bolt. Chapter 1. I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. Chapter 2. 3 old ladies knit the socks of death. Chapter 3. Grover unexpectedly loses his pants. Chapter 4. My mother teaches me bullfighting. Chapter 5. I play pinnacle with the horse. Chapter 6. I become supreme lord of the bathroom. That's a favorite right there. Chapter 7. My dinner goes up in smoke. Chapter 8. We capture a flag. Chapter 9. I am offered a quest. Chapter 10. I ruin a perfect... Oh my goodness, sorry. That was a hiccup. Chapter 10. I ruin a perfectly good bus. Chapter 11. We visit the cardinal and boy. Chapter 12. We get advice from a poodle. Chapter 13. I plunge to my death. Chapter 14. I become a known fugitive. Chapter 15. A god buys us cheeseburgers. Chapter 16. We take a zebra to Vegas. Chapter 17. We shop for waterbeds. Chapter 18. Annabeth does obedience school. Chapter 19. We find out the truth. Sort of. Chapter 20. I battle my jerk relative. Chapter 21. I settle my tab. Chapter 22. The prophecy comes true. So, we will get to the first 3 chapters of Percy Jackson. Theoretically, this will take 3 videos to do to get through the first 3 chapters. Each of them are relatively about 15 pages, and it takes almost 30 minutes to get through 15 pages when you're speaking as quietly and relatively slowly as I am. So, I just wanted to do a little bit of tapping on the book. A little bit of tapping. A little bit of this action. Hold on, I gotta move my wand. as well as Sarah J. Moss's name. Sarah J. Moss is my best friend and my greatest enemy, with the heartache that she causes me with all of her books. But she also writes some of the greatest sequences, the greatest moments that I have ever read in literature. I have read a lot of books. I can't say that I have read as many books as many people, but I can say that I've read a lot of books. So Sarah J. Moss impresses me. Her writing is phenomenal. I've rarely ever read writing that is as well done as her own. However, I do have to hand it to Elizabeth Evans. I read the audiobook in Audible via Audible. I read the audiobook of this series, and there is a lot that an audiobook reader or narrator can do to really elevate a series and the writing of a series. I believe that the writing is very well done in this series, but I do have to hand it to Elizabeth Evans for being amazing. I think I would swoon if I met her in real life. She is basically these characters in my head, and if I heard her speak, I would be bowing. So this is Sarah J. Moss's Throne of Glass. So, that velvety texture remains across the entirety of the cover, both front and back. So we'll go ahead and read the description. It says, lethal, loyal, legendary. In a land without magic, an assassin is summoned to the castle. She has no love for the vicious king who rules from his throne of glass, but she has not come to kill him. She has come to win her freedom. If she defeats 23 murderers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, she will be released from prison to serve as the king's champion. Her name is Selena Sardothian. The crown prince will provoke her, the captain of the guard will protect her, and a princess from a faraway country will befriend her. But something rotten dwells in the castle, and it's there to kill. When her competitors start dying mysteriously, one by one, Selena's fight for freedom becomes a fight for survival, and a desperate quest to root out the evil before it destroys her world. Thrilling and fierce, Throne of Glass is the first book in the #1 New York Times best-selling series that has captivated readers worldwide. A must-read for lovers of epic fantasy and fairy tales, says USA Today. Then we have Sarah J. Maas's biography on the back cover. On the outside of the back cover particularly. It says, Sarah J. Maas is the #1 New York Times and internationally best-selling author of The Throne of Glass, Court of Thorns and Roses, and Crescent City series. Her books have sold millions of copies and are published in 38 languages. She lives in California with her family. So, when I started reading this series, I skipped the first 2 books because I knew a booty ton about the series, thanks to Pinterest and BookDog. I had no interest in reading the series. I was not going to read the series, but then Elizabeth Evans told me, yes, you are going to read this series. Not literally, I mean by way of. She voiced it so well that I had no choice but to give it a try. So I started with Air of Fire, which I have right here. Provocative. Which I have right here. And that's how I got into the series, was reading Air of Fire. There's also a prequel book, that's the book that I'm not reading, that is magnificently written and has very important story to the rest of the series as you get on. if you want to, go for it. It is very well written. I would recommend reading it. I just, for my sake, for my emotional stability, my sanity, I just not read it. It hurts enough throughout the rest of the series without reading it and knowing the context of what happens. But, oh goodness. So, additionally, I have read the portion of text that is the soul-wrenching piece, and I've seen all of the art, so I am well aware of what happens in the book. I recommend this series. The writing gets much better upon the third book. Do beware, some people find it very slow. Sometimes Sarah has a hard time getting to the action. She does a lot of build-up, which makes the conclusions of the stories of the books that much more worth waiting for, but you can get a little impatient. I have gotten impatient reading her books before. Sometimes I'll take a couple hour breaks or maybe a break for a day before getting back into it. With this series that did not happen, but with her Crescent City series it did. So it made me a little more empathetic to what my sister was saying about her feeling it was very slowly written. But I know plenty of other people whose opinion is not that. So we'll read the first 3 chapters of this series, of this book. I may also do a video reading the first 3 chapters of Air of Fire. Potentially also the summary of Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight before that. Just so some of you guys can get started where I got started. So that's Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. And we'll just do a little bit of tippy tapping before getting to our third and final book. So Front of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. The second book that we will be reading together. The second book. And now finally, oh goodness, I almost knocked my wand over. Finally, I'm gonna roll my sleeves up as well. Finally, the third book that we will be reading together. Oh goodness, this is a big, oh my gosh, hold on. Okay. The Priory of the Orange Tree, which barely fits. 1 second. I have to adjust my camera. There we go. Most books can reasonably fit with where we had it positioned at previously, but not this beast. So I mentioned I brought the shell for Percy Jackson. Well, this time around, I brought back from last video I Will Not Be Afraid. So, this is from not this book in particular, however. It is from one of the later books. Actually, it may very well be in that book. But anyways, it plays a theme. So does the stack. And the star. Alright, now get back to the Priory of the Orange Tree. So, I don't have anything dedicated to this book because I have not yet read this book before. This is the Priory of the Orange Tree. The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This book, I have already recorded for this book, which may be why when you get to this series of things that you will see me probably re-explaining some things I've explained in this video or the previous video. But this is the Priory of the Orange Tree, and it is 800 and about 30 pages long. This is a huge book. As you can see, it's about the size of my forearm. It's bigger than my forearm, actually. So, it's huge. It is a fantasy epic with several different books inside of it. As you can see, there is a dragon on the cover, and this cover is incredibly textured. It has about 3 different textures. One of which is just a very unique and well planned or creative use of one of the other 2 textures. So, the textures that, or I guess there are, about 3 textures. So we have The Priory of the Orange Tree, a New York Times bestseller by Samantha Shannon. The cover has a kind of more similar to Percy Jackson's cover, kind of that almost plasticky cardboard feel, except this one is much, much smoother. You can kind of hear the difference here. But then it also has kind of this that plasticky-esque cover that makes your fingers stick to it. See, like this, it's really easy to move across, whereas this one, you catch on it. That also up here for the roof of this tower, the windows of this tower, and I think all the way down here as well. Yeah. And then you have the lifted words, the lifted words of the title and the author's name. And additionally, the very creative use of this lifted effect is used in the dragon. The dragon's scales are actually lifted with rivets that are pressed into the front cover, which you can see and down here. I don't know if you can see that, but it is a textured dragon, so you can feel all the scales, which I find to be very creative, very interesting. So this is a worm style of dragon. A worm is a dragon that has this long snake-like body, and it specifically, I think the worms with 4 legs and wings, as this dragon so has, are specifically called something else, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. We have this, it's not a sticker, it's printed onto the cover, this circle, this little bubble that says New York Times best-selling author of A Day of Fallen Night and The Bone Season. So this book is chock full of maps, of taglines, of how to say things, and a dictionary for what various things are within the setting of the book, within the writing, which I find super inspiring. So I'm very, very excited to read this for you all and to also read it onto my own. So I'm going to try not to let the bookmark currently sitting in there fall out. It's a very heavy bookmark. So you see, this book is published by Bloomsbury Publishers, which, interestingly enough, as is Throne of Glass and all of the Sarah J. Maas productions. On the back, oh no, it's falling. We have, hold on, I'm not gonna fix that. On the back, we have our description of the book here, much shorter than the descriptions of the other 2 books. We have our reviews here, and we have our author bio here. I quite like the setup of these sections. I think it's very organized, very unique. I feel like it fits the book very well, the elegance of this book. So in the description we have, the house of Barathenet has ruled Ineos for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Spron the Ninth must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from destruction, but assassins are getting closer to her door. Ede Durian is an outsider at court. Though she has risen to the position of lady-in-waiting, she is loyal to a hidden society of mages. Ede keeps a watchful eye on Spron, secretly protecting her with forbidden magic. Across the dark sea, Dane is trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that could see her life unravel. Meanwhile, the divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleep. So we have over here, mesmerizing, says the Washington Post. Brilliant, diverse, feminist, subversive, thought-provoking, and masterfully told, The Priory of the Orange Tree is epic fantasy at its finest. Karen Marie Moning, the #1 New York Times best-selling author of the Highlander and Fever series. Shannon has taken the fantasy epic and breathed a new life into it, allowing women's stories to take center stage where they belong, even in a world nothing like our own, said BuzzFeed. Samantha Shannon, and studied English language and literature at St. Anne's College, Oxford. The Bone Season, the first in a 7-book series, was a New York Times bestseller in the inaugural The Day Book Club selection. The Mime Order followed in 2015 and The Song Rising in 2017. Her work has been translated into 26 languages. She lives in London. So then we have her information down here, and similarly to Throne of Glass, this is a very expensive book. It costs $20. However, I don't think this book has a sequel, which has something over on the Throne of Glass series wherein you just have to buy one book that's $20 instead of 8 of them. So this is, oh good heavens, I have to fix my bookmark. This is The Priory of the Orange Tree, and I'm very excited to read it to you all. Just for reference, for you to be able to see. It has the maps up front, 6 books, several books or parts in it, and then the Persons of the Dale glossary and timeline sections, which I find very interesting and very alluring for a book like this, or like any book, I suppose. Those make me very excited to read it for myself. So here we are with our third and final book. Yeah, but this is the book in particular that I was mentioning when I was talking about in my previous video wanting to make gliding sounds. I find that this one in particular made excellent gliding sounds. And I wanted to bring that into the fold of this video. is our third book that we will be reading together. And so that concludes our video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I hope that you have a good day, night, or whatever time it is for you. I wish you luck on your whatever is ahead of you for today. I wish you luck for whatever lies before you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.